Okay, class, here goes another video. This one is going to be about slope. Hopefully you remember most things about slope, but I want to kind of touch on a few things. First of all, we can find slope from 2 points using our slope formula. Do you guys remember m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, okay? Do you remember that's our slope formula for finding slope? Now, it does not matter if I'm given two ordered pairs. It doesn't matter which one becomes x1, y1 and x2, y2 as long as you're consistent. Let me show you an example. So if I have 3, 7, and 4, 8, for example, and I want to find the slope of this, okay, I mean, hopefully you see it's pretty simple. But I can make this my x1, y1, x2, y2 if I want, or I can switch it up. I'll get the same answer no matter what, okay? But let's go through. So if I put on top y2, so what goes on top? 8. I'm going to say 8 minus y1, which is 7, right? And then on bottom, x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 3. Now this one's an easy one. 8 minus 7 is 1, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So my slope is 1, meaning it goes up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, okay? So that's one way to do it, is through your slope formula. Most of you are pretty comfortable with that and remember that pretty well. All right, other options. Where's my... Oh, there it is. I'm trying to find my eraser. Okay, now, besides doing slope formula, you might be given an equation and asked to find the slope. 8x plus 3y equals 18. Okay, so you have options here. Now, I've shown you guys a little shortcut before, but let me go through and get y by itself. That's the standard way, and then I'll remind you of the shortcut, because with ACT it's about time management. So if I was going to get y by itself in this particular equation, I would say minus 8x to the other side. Okay, I'm going to try to isolate the variable y. In other words, get it by itself on one side. So that would cancel, and I'd have 3y equals, now these are not like terms, so I got to list them separate. 18 minus 8x, or negative 8x plus 18. However you like to write it, doesn't matter to me. Now the only thing left is this 3 in front of the y. So I'm going to divide by 3. That way I can cancel it. But if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So I'm going to go all the way over. That cancels, so I have y equals 18 divided by 3 is 6, minus 8/3 x, because they won't go evenly. Okay, just leave it as a fraction. Now that would be my slope, right? So if I wanted to know parallel, right, if it was a line that's parallel to this, I would say negative 8/3. Okay, so if I want to know parallel, it would stay the same, negative 8/3. But if I said, well, what about perpendicular? And you remember perpendicular is where it not only intersects, but it forms right angles. So perpendicular, I'd have to take this slope, flip it, make it 3/8, and change the sign. So I go from negative to positive, so that'd be perpendicular. Now, don't forget, we talked about a shortcut on this the other day. I don't know if you guys remember this. So, see, we ended up with negative 8/3. So here's your shortcut to save you to have to do all that. That's a lot of work and our limited time on the ACT. So you can always take the number in front of x, in this case 8. You want to change its sign. It is positive. I want to make it negative. And then divide by whatever's in front of y, which is 3. So that's that negative 8/3, which we got from doing all that work. Wasn't a ton of work, but it was more than we necessarily need to do. So if it wanted to know the slope of this line, I would say negative 8/3. If it would want to know the slope of a line perpendicular to this, I would say 3/8. You get the idea. Okay, the last thing is you might have to find slope from a graph. okay? Bear with me. This is going to be a little harder to do because I don't have like a graph on here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do a real basic, simple one, so that way you guys can see what I'm doing, okay? All right, so let's say I have this graph and they want to know the slope of this graph. Okay, if I look at this, I can tell it's a lot more shallow, right? So I want to do what's called slope is actually just rise over run. So I want to know how far up and how far over. Okay, so if I look, I'm going up 1, right? And then I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4 before I hit my point again, right? So my slope would be rise 1 over run 4. So my slope would be 1/4. Notice the smaller this number is, the more shallow, closer to being horizontal my line is, right? If I have a slope of, let's say 5, right? Then this same line, I would go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 1. See how much steeper that would be with a slope of 5, right? Right? See, y equals 5x. It's going up pretty quick, where y equals 1/4 x is taking a lot longer to come up, okay? So keep that in mind as you're working through that next section on slope. Some of you have already turned it in. Maybe you remember most of that. But if you haven't turned it in yet, this is a nice little video to kind of remind you, and it'll kind of help you hit on most of those questions. I hope this helps.